Welcome to the first episode of the Carmichael Show. Today we have the privilege of interviewing Warren Barrett Jr. Now let's get straight into it. Warren, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, before I do that, I want to say thank you for the opportunity for coming up on the platform. Being the first guest, I feel that's a very monumental accomplishment. So I want to say thank you again. I know it has been a hassle to get the interview done, but the objective must be completed. As you guys know, my name is Warren Barrett, son of Warren Barrett Sr. and Suzette Barrett. Middle child of three children. I have one elder sister, one younger sister, and I'm from Montego Bay, Jamaica. Big up Mobby, big up St. James, big up Jamaica in general. And I'm very humble, kind-hearted, jovial, yet confident human being. I mean, yeah, not too much in it.
So you've been throwing for over 10 years now, right?
Yes.
How did you get into throwing?
How I got into throwing was a pretty funny story because one of my dad's friend, Mr. Reed, big up Mr. Reed, he said I have the build and stature to throw. But at that time, football was at the forefront of my mind, as it would be for a lot of other Jamaicans. But
And especially you, I think a lot of persons don't know, but Warren's dad was the captain of the first and only time Jamaica went to the World Cup, right?
yeah, he was the captain for the national team in the 1998 World Cup in France. So that's a big reason as to why I love football. But God didn't want me to tread that path, so Mr. Reed introduced me to the idea of doing shot put because he did it, and he's probably 5'7", and he wasn't big either. So he said, let's try it. I duck training for a couple of weeks. Then Mr. Rooms, big up Mr. Rooms from Cornwall College, he came to my classroom. I think it's 8 car or 9 car. Yeah. And he said I should come to train and stop ducking training and stuff. And I just gave it a shot, man. And no pun intended. I gave it a shot. And I went there the first day. The older guys introduced me to some drills. I did them with the shot, introductory drills with the shot, and they had a little meeting so that they were huddling up. So I would be over there. So from time to time they look at me and I'm like, bro, just tell me if I'm doing good or not. But just by the congregation that they were having, I'm assuming that I did good. But because they didn't want to fill my head up or boost my ego, they said, oh yeah, that's all right. Nothing crazy. But I feel like in their hearts of hearts, they knew that, yeah, man, the youth
promising.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But since then, I've enjoyed doing the sport, and I love that I chose that sport to do because it has now become a passion of mine in which I don't know if it will ever be replaced, to be honest.
Awesome. So you mentioned the training environment a little bit at Cornwall. In general, let's talk about what training was like at Cornwall and then talk about the transition from Cornwall to Calabar.
All right, so training at Cornwall College was, I would say, very general. We didn't focus too much on any one specific thing. It was just a general approach. Whilst at Calabar, we had specifics where, you have your macro cycle, which is the whole year plan of training, mesocycle, microcycle. It's more methodological at Calabar. And, the introduction of Olympic lifts like cleans and snatches and stuff, I started those at Calabar, was at Cornwall. You did your regular bench press, front raise, it's bicep curl, just stuff to keep you active. Not to say that it wasn't working, because it was, but I think Cornwall set the base foundation good, and then at Calabar, the platform was already set, so I could propel to higher heights.
Awesome. And at Calabar, what was it like just being in a completely different environment? I think Calabar is more of a athletic school, Cornwall more of an academic school. So that switch from focusing or trying to balance academics and athletics to really narrowing in on the athletic side of it. What was that like? How was that transition for you?
Honestly, it wasn't difficult because Cornwall College and Calabar High are very similar institutions, believe it or not. Like, and I honestly feel like most all boy institutions are very similar. Where you have your different social groups with people in it. You have your jocks, you have your badman, you have your nerds, you have your different social groups in any high school. And at Cornwall, I seen that I was a part of the track and field team. I had my boys with me, and it was very good. Whilst at Calabar, yes, it was mostly athletics, but let's not pretend as if academics was not a part of it as well.
Well, I too went to a school before I went to Calabar.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I went to Wolmer's for my first 5 years. Big up Wolmer's, Agekwada Geese. You don't know. And then I transferred to Calabar. So I'm just calling it as it is.
100%.
I'm not trying to
100%.
put down Calabar,
Yeah.
But when I was at Wolmer's, it was more a student athlete life balance
Fair
where you're training
Fair
hard,
enough.
but you're going home and you're studying hard. Going to Calabar,
Yeah.
it was more you're training hard and you're training hard, and the academic side of it wasn't a priority until it got to a point that it needed to be.
Do I agree? I don't agree wholeheartedly. I believe that track and field or athletics was at the forefront. We were athlete students.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. We were athlete students.
Yeah, we
not student athletes.
were athlete students at Calabar, whilst at our former alma maters, we would have been student athletes.
I think a great way to put it is Cornwall, Wolmer's. Those are schools that are traditional high schools. My time at Calabar, it felt more like an academy.
For real, still.
Where you come in here because this is somewhere that you can get better at your sport. That was the only reason I went to Calabar. I didn't leave Woolmer's to go to Calabar to try to get 8-1s in Cape in lower six and upper six. That was not the intention. So I think it's more like an academy where you do schoolwork, but
Yeah, like you do schoolwork, but I mean, it's not your main priority. I understand it. But in the household that I was in, big up Uncle Philip or Auntie Mitzi, I could not have slacked with my schoolwork. So I might have not been to the standards where I was at Cornwall College, because the first day I came to Calabar High School, Mr. Albert Carter, the principal at the time, is he still principal now? The principal at the time.
Big up Mr. Carter.
Yeah, big up Carter, you know the thing go. He called me up on stage at what you call it? Orientation. So you guys need to be more like Barrett. He does track and field, and he's coming to Calabar with 10 C6 subjects. That is a brilliant. And I'm like,
how long
how long is it gonna last? Because it's like, you hear the tales about Calabar, and it's like academics is never a part of the story. You get me? And I mean, starting at Calabar, big up man like Eggs, Ronald Hastings, Eggs saw me and said, hey, I know you came here with 10 subjects, but it's not gonna work, man.
Yeah, I know it sounds bad, but this is just our story.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, Calabar might have changed since then, but being there, my first week, raising a hand in class, wanting to answer all the questions, because that's what I'm used to.
Yeah, you're programmed.
I'm just used to that. I'm used to, speaking eloquently. I'm used to being in class early, staying late at the arts. I remember one time I stayed late to ask teacher something. She looked so surprised. She's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to. I was like, no, I want to ask if you could go over this. She's like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah, man, it's a different environment. And Ronald said to me, bro, really and truly, after about, I'm giving you a month, bro, and then you're just going to fall into the system. I'm like, bro, I have a standard I have to maintain. What are you talking about?
Until they meet the stone table.
Big up Calabar. That stone table, will turn Albert Einstein, God rest his soul, to the dumbest human being on earth. That stone table switches your mindset 100%. It's ridiculous.
And time move different. This was it's a stone table and it's the most comfortable stone table in the world.
No, it's crazy, man. But I mean, Calabar and Cornwall College, I love both institutions. I cherish my time there, and I wouldn't have wanted it to be any other way. And both of them have developed me as a young man in different aspects of my life, and I cherish my memories there, the friendship I've built, the people I've encountered, and it's made me into being the person I am today, and I don't regret 1 second of it.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about training in Cornwall, the approach to training, and you talked about the transition to Calabar. Let's go into some more details about just your time at Calabar, what the training was like, and approach to training, Coach Julian's approach, and just how he did stuff in general.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the best Jamaican coach, Coach Julian Robinson. His track record speaks for himself. I don't feel it's debatable, but I mean, you know my Instagram, you can at me. But the first day I went to Calabar, Coach Robinson just asked me, who do you believe is a good technical model? And at the time I said Ryan Krauser. Ironically, Krauser's a world record holder right now, so I spotted greatness from a long time. But he said, no, Krauser is 6'6", 6'7". You're 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot.
5'7", yeah, I'm continue.
Oh?
No, continue.
Oh yeah, break up. Yeah. And he said, no, you need someone similar to your height and stuff. So he suggested Fred. Big up Odin Richards, Fred. Suggested Fred, Tom Walsh, Kovacs. But he just wanted me to look at people my size and stature.
Other youth man, what name?
No. Nobody else. That's it, guys. Nobody else.
Yeah.
That's it. And I said, all right, coach, I trust you. Which event do you think is the best event, Barrett? I said, I prefer shots still. And started we work on it. Say you need to put on some size. You look like you could jump, or you could look like a sprinter. You're thin. Because I went to Calabar at like 195, man. I was slender, man. I'm still slender now at this level, but at Calabar, I was a stick. It was ridiculous. So I had to make an attempt to try to gain mass. And along with that came the strength levels with the new Olympic lifting routine, snatch, split jerk, cleans, clean and press, all that stuff. It was all new to me, but I learned how to do them in ample time, and I saw the rewards that they had, and I loved it. But Calabar in general, under Mr. Robinson, it opened my eyes to the world of throwing, because he has a system where you have to be self-sufficient as an athlete. So I believe that anyone under Coach Robinson's system doesn't need him to be successful. Like, I've seen meets where professionals need their coaches to be there. Their coaches are always there. I believe firmly that because Coach Robinson forces you to learn the sport and become a student of the sport, you are self-sufficient as an athlete. You don't need him to be around to know what is right and what is wrong and what to do, when to do it, etc. Because he wants you to break down the throw to the smallest movement and understand, how does this movement make me more powerful, and how does this movement transition into the next one? You get me? So I love that approach, and to this day I still use it, and Coach Robinson has been a mentor, coach, father figure ever since I went to Calabar up until this point.
Definitely, I agree. I think Coach Robinson, initially I wasn't accustomed to his approach, because there's this expectation leaving Wilmots coming to Calabar that coach is going to be there every day, and it's going to be this completely different system and just 24/7 training. And the first time I got there, like the first week I got there, I saw coach one time, and then he didn't come back till probably a month later.
That's mad.
And honestly speaking, that one time he came, the thing is, when he's there, it's solid work. It's
100%.
It's not. He's there and he's like giving you commentary. He's telling you what to work on, how to fix it, what you need to work on. And I remember just being there that first day and him saying, You need to do a lot more stands. You need to do a lot more half turn. Don't focus on anything else. Just those two things. And that's all I did for the whole month. And when he came back now and he was assessing where I was at that time, he was like, all right, things looking good. Let's progress to the next thing. But that whole month I spent watching videos, practicing with myself, looking at my videos and analyzing and learning and growing, reading. And I think that's the development that Warren is talking about, where a lot of persons might not know this, but the likes of Banji and Travis, all those guys, when they go on the circuit in Europe, coach isn't in a position where he can just go with them at any point in time.
100%.
I would say 90% of the time, probably 95%, 95%,
99% of the time, because coach is only with them when it's Olympic or World Champs.
Yeah.
So
anomalies, like when I've seen him go to like
Commonwealth,
Arizona, like
I mean, but
here and there, like that's
fair
so
enough.
probably 99% to be honest. The 1% is just when the federation is sending a team, and he was selected as a coach, and even then, I've seen or I've heard that when coaches at those on those teams, he's focusing more on the other athletes than his athletes. Again, they know what they're supposed to be 100%. Doing, and if they feel like they need advice, they just ask for it. Yeah, definitely. So we talked about Carnal, we talked about Calabar. Let's talk a little bit about UA, because that's where you got your collegiate start. What was that journey like being in UA?
UA was UA is where I experienced life for what life is. So UA, different environment. No one is around you to see what you're doing 24/7. No one is on you about your schoolwork. It's free. You're free from the constraints of your parents, guardians, whoever. You get what I'm saying? So it's you who dictate your life in a sense. And I grew up in a household where it wasn't strict, but the standards that my parents set are lifelong. And as such, I didn't drink, party. The average collegiate person is going to do that. So I didn't indulge because I believe that the standards that my parents set was so good. And also, I mean, coupled with being an athlete, it also helped that as well. But UA was where I experienced life for what it was, the ups and downs, highs and lows, hills and valleys. It was more valleys than hills, though.
Give us one particular situation or story where you felt like you really experienced life, like there was a lesson in that experience or story.
All right, so I remember the first time I went to UA, and it wasn't my first year, apologies, and I couldn't throw because I had a wrist injury. What it was, I found out like 2 or 3 years later that I had a bone in my wrist that was bigger than what it's supposed to be. And I had to sit out, couldn't throw a shot. My life was centered around shot put because I'm not the most social person in the world. And if you know me, you know that I don't really like to talk to people that much. I'm a loner in a sense. If I don't know you or if I'm in a new environment. But I remember going down one time to training. I believe coach wanted me to do some plyometrics. And I saw Chris, big up Breeze, and I saw Banji, big up Banji, and Travis as well. I saw them, Travis and Banji, over the discus ring. Chris was in the shot put ring, throwing, and I just sat there after I finished my plyometrics and I was crying, bro. Tears literally came to my eyes and I was crying. I'm like, I centered my life around this thing. I firmly believe that I have the potential it takes to be good at it. Yet still, here I am not being able to partake in it. And it just hit me, bro, that life isn't all about sports. That was the moment I realized that life isn't all about sports. Because I feel like, in high school, making national teams, breaking records, stuff like that, those are short-lived. You get me? It's nice in the moment and stuff, but looking back at it, it's just a part of character development. And I love that it happened, but it's like, if someone had instilled in me that, yo, track and field or sports isn't the end all be all, I feel like I would have been in a better place at that point in time. But I was very emotional being not being able to do something that I love and I centered my life around, and I just broke down in tears. I was stressed for that period of time, and any opportunity I could take to even throw a girl shot, I would do it, bro. That's how much I missed it. Without coach's guidance, I mean, yeah, go behind his back, and I just wanted to feel the shot in my hand again. You get me? Because I was so attached to the sport. So that's only one of many instances where I can say it's been very rough as it relates to the sport.
So what changed mentally since then? What do you now center your life around?
I center my life around the Most High and believing that His purpose in my life is what He wants me to do. What it is, I don't know as of right now. However, I'm still on the quest of finding it out. And track and field will come to an end as it will the next couple months. And I appreciate the journey and what I've learned from it. However, every book or every chapter finishes at some point in time. And I firmly believe that this is the time where it has to close and the next chapter will open. What it is, I don't know for sure yet, but I am 100% certain that the Most High will guide me into the right path.
Definitely. Wow. Speaking of chapters, you mentioned you and everything that you've been through, and I feel like a lot of persons will definitely be inspired and encouraged just hearing your story, how you dealt with that. And I think mental fortitude is very important in anything that you do, not even just sports.
Yeah.
So speaking of chapters, let's talk about the NCAA chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So you spent some time at UA. You did your time, and an opportunity presented itself,
100%.
and you landed here in the United States. What went through your mind during that whole process when an opportunity presented itself, something that you feel like you could use to catapult a career to where it needed to be,
Yeah.
or to reignite the flame that you had, internally? What was that like mentally for you?
In my opinion, I don't believe it was a very hard decision because at the time I was going to be a father, and whilst I wanted to be there, I also had to provide because that would be my responsibility. And I believe that being here in the United States would have helped me greatly to do that. So from that point of view, it wasn't much of a choice. It wasn't much of a decision worth thinking about. It was a no-brainer, if you may. And because someone like yourself was here and I was aware of the program, I said, why not give it a shot? Like, I remember Nebraska came to visit me at, I think, King of the Ring. And I told him, I'm not going to Nebraska. I'm going to stay with Coach Julian. You get me? But, life brings you at different points. And I didn't know I would have been in the NCAA a couple of years later, but there I was. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. Grateful to Coach Clennon Henderson, big up Coach Henderson, for giving me the opportunity to attend Liberty University and compete for a Christian institution.
You mentioned father. I think a lot of persons aren't even aware that you are a father right now, right?
100%.
What's that been like?
Fatherhood is it's a very special experience. It's one in which I can't muster up the words to say, but it's surreal. It's very inspiring. It's a very heartwarming experience. When I got to go home last summer and visit my son, it was it was heartwarming, man. When I saw him for the first, I remember seeing him. My dad came for me, and I saw him in the car and I'm like, whoa, Judah got big. Like he was massive. Because the last time I saw him, he was about one, I believe, yeah, or close to one. And I'm like, Judah is so small. But when I saw him last summer, bro, it was like a different human being. And you see him on video calls and stuff, and you're like, yeah, the appearance and everyone saying Judah is growing. Da, da, da. I'm like, I see it, but I can't really see it. So like going home and looking at it, I'm like, yeah, man.
How do you handle that though, being so far?
Honestly speaking, it's very difficult. But I know that I have a mission here that I must accomplish, and I have to keep my eyes on the goal and the task at hand. And my mom always reminds me that purpose must be fulfilled. And I firmly believe that because she's instilled it in me from I was very young. Because the adversity that I faced, especially with my mother since a child, if you knew those stories, it would be too long a podcast to speak. So I firmly believe that there's purpose on my life. And I just use his absence to fuel me in whatever I'm doing. It has to be served as fuel because I now have something to live for.
Yeah, you're just trying to control the controllables and
Definitely,
get the best of an opportunity.
because it's like, what is your why? I feel like prior to his arrival here on Earth or his birth, I was in a state of like a question mark. What is your why? Question mark. Since then, everything I've done, I've always made sure that I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my son. He's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I always have to ensure I do it to the best of my ability because I can't look at my son and tell him to do something that I didn't give 100% in. You get what I'm saying? So it's like he gave me purpose, man. He reignited that flame for me in many aspects of life.
So would you say that the relationship that you had with your father is part of the reason why you're wanting to leave a lasting legacy for your son as well?
100%, man. Like, I think it goes without saying. Like, my father is this great figure in Jamaica. He's this icon in Jamaica, and his accomplishments are no small feats. What he has done is, it possibly will be done again, but you never forget the first time. You never forget the first. And because he was one of the poster boys, if you may, it's like the bar is very high, man. The bar is very high, but I like it. And I have to now try to meet that bar and ensure that I set a standard that my son can look at me and say, Daddy did this and that. Let's try to replicate him. I understand that it might cause pressure in some sense because someone like LeBron James, naming his son LeBron James Jr., that's a lot of pressure, because LeBron James will go down as a top 3, if not the best player of all time. So naming your son LeBron James Jr., I can see where the pressure is, but it's like...
But there's power in that too, because I think personally, and I guess I'm speaking from experience because my son is a junior as well.
Yeah.
I think you witness so much power in your name.
100%.
And you understand what your name means. 100%. And you just want to pass on that power.
Definitely. Definitely.
And you already know without a doubt, without question, that your son is not going to be like you. He's going to be better. So 100%. Your name will continue to live on.
Definitely.
And continue to compound and get better and greater and greater.
Yeah, it's a legacy thing, man. I feel like in today's society, if men held the standards of their last name highly, the society would be a better society, man. Because back in like the medieval times, or even if you're watching shows and stuff, if you do anything in disrepute of the family's name or tarnish the family's legacy, you'll be cast away. If that were the case right now, men would not be doing a lot of stuff. You get me? So I still live by the standard where, hey, I can't do certain stuff simply because my dad is who he is, and I respect him to a very high standard, and I can't bring my family's name down. If anything, I have to carry it up or maintain the standard. Can't be No, that's not it.
So if you could, on a public platform, say anything to your father, what would you say to him? If he's watching right now and you want to tell him a message, what would you say to him?
I want to say, Daddy, I love you very much, man. And I thank you for all the lessons that you have taught me, the amount of talks that we've been through, no matter what it's been. I appreciate it all and thank you for always being there because I know a lot of people in the Jamaican society and in general don't have a father there. So I want to say I appreciate you for everything that you've done, man. It goes without saying that you have done a very, very good job and I love you to bits and pieces, man. Like I'm cheesing right now. It's crazy. And Daddy knows that I love him because like when I speak to my family, I have to call my mom more frequently than my dad. But when I speak to my dad, we can talk once for the week, but it's gonna be for like an hour, 2 hour conversation, and we're gonna cover all grounds. If it's my mom's though, I have to try to call my mom's every day or every other day and keep in touch. And the conversation is like 5, 10, 50. You get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, man. But Daddy, I love you, man. I love you. That's all I can say. I love you very much, and thank you for bringing me here on this earth. And I will not disappoint you, man. I will not disappoint you.
And someday your son is gonna do the same thing.
God willing.
You're going to be the standard that he looks up to. And he's gonna not necessarily be in a podcast, but be somewhere and say, because of my father, I am
Definitely.
who I am today.
Oh, as it relates to the point about the name and power, I've seen that too many times, man, where so for instance, there's a stadium in Montego Bay called Jarrett Park where a lot of high school games are held, Dakasta Cup games, and when at the time you had Seba and Wadada, which were popular teams from Montego Bay, and Daddy would just go to the gate and someone look out, oh, Mr. Barrett, oh, come in, man. Get like small stuff like that. It's like, yeah, man, hey, that is actually an icon for real. Like, you get me? So it's like small stuff like that. You've seen it and you're like, oh, yeah, you're Mr. Barrett's son? Oh, yeah, man, you're good, man. Like, it has perks to it. That's what it has perks to it. But that doesn't mean that I abuse it because I also want people to know my name, which is why I believe that doing track and field was a good choice because if I had decided to play football and was good and made
You
it,
have to live up to that standard.
no, that would be, you get me? So, yeah, blessing in disguise, maybe.
Yeah. Warren, being here in the NCAA, I know it's completely different from being in Jamaica.
100.
You mentioned earlier that you're introverted, and I wouldn't say difficult, but it is challenging for you to make friends being antisocial or a loner.
Yeah.
How do you then handle the expectation of having to have relationships here in the NCAA with your teammates and all that kind of stuff if you're not that person, like from an organic standpoint?
All right, so I feel like it began with my coach last year telling me that I need to be more of a people person because he noticed that I was to myself a lot of the time, and which is why I made a deliberate attempt this year to, in my throwing group, I wasn't this vocal or I wasn't this friendly. But I said, all right, it's my last year. Coach spoke to me about this. I'm going to try and be more supportive as a teammate. I'm going to try to come out of my shell a little bit, ask the guys and girls how their days were. Like, just because sometimes all someone needs to know is you just asking them how their day has been. Like, those small things go very far away. So I feel like I've made an attempt to, I still feel like there's more work to be done, definitely. But I think I have came a very far away because from my first year here, when it was just me and you, then me, you, Kevin. It was like we were always especially with me, you, and Kevin. It was always the three musketeers. Are we were always together. You don't see one and don't see all. You get me?
Or if you see one, the other one coming. So.
Oh, definitely. Like, and I stay to myself pretty much, but I still struggle with being a person that speaks to everyone because it's just not my nature, man. It's not something that I enjoy doing, but I understand that there is merit to doing it, especially when you're on a team having a similar objective. And as such, I have taken a step back and tried to adjust it as it relates to my group.
You know, I think this whole topic of relationships, there's a lot of things that I think people don't take into consideration. Because personally, for me, I think there's energy in everything that you do.
100%.
So if my intentions aren't clear, your intentions aren't clear, I think there's an imbalance in energy right there. So the whole mindset of just wanting to be friends because we just need to be friends, I was never sold on that.
Yeah.
So even when I would try to like be friends, my energy would always be like completely off. And they probably couldn't tell, but I could tell. And I think that's when the whole mentality or the idea of hypocrisy started to seep in. It's like, am I being a hypocrite?
Mhm.
Do I actually care about these people? And the funniest thing about it all, is that usually, and I can speak for myself, usually the persons that are antisocial or introverted, they usually have the biggest hearts. Like when it comes to sacrifice, when it comes to even laying down your life. Like if there was a situation where I felt like we'd have to lay down our life for our teammates, we'd probably be the first to do so. But in their mind, we don't really care about them or we don't like them. But it's just because, as you mentioned, being on a team, we have a similar goal, yes, but our experience of being on a team back in Jamaica wasn't just a similar goal with winning champs. It was a similar goal because we were like-minded.
Yeah, 100%.
We all trained hard. We all were diligent. And we all, we're just students of the sport, encompassed our life around the sport. So there's so much stuff to talk about.
Definitely.
I remember one time we used to have the WhatsApp group chats with the throwers, and we would send throwing videos. Like it would be, this is what was so weird. It would be world championships or Olympics and throwing going on right now, whether it's hammer, javelin, but specifically hammer or specifically the shot put and the discus going on right now. And nobody not saying anything. I would have two groups going hot. I have the brotherhood group.
Yeah.
I have the utmost for the highest group. One is a throwing group, but one is also just a friend group.
Yeah.
Most of we are throw. And the two group that you always say, see Kovacs just beat it. And the throwers group for the school, nobody not saying anything. So it's like stuff like that. I used to be like, how am I gonna have a conversation if we're not passionate about this thing?
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think the overarching theme of just our approach to relationship is that we like to speak more with our actions.
Fair enough.
And
I agree.
What Warren mentioned about the three musketeers, that's 10 plus years of knowing each other.
Yeah.
The first time I met Kevin, or the first time we met Kevin, we weren't just going and talking to Kevin.
Yeah.
It took us making teams together, seeing each other over the period of years.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until now he got here that we actually got close.
For real.
We were cool, but we weren't like
buddy.
Yeah, we weren't texting each other.
Pause.
Yeah, pause. But I think that's just the road that I won't say every Jamaican, but I think a lot of Jamaicans are like that, whereas relationships are organic and it gradually develops, and then you actually become friends and ultimately become brothers.
What I must also say is perception, right? Or point of view, because like myself, me and you and I more so are more similar than Kevin, because Kevin is more a people person.
Yeah,
he's true. Very friendly and outgoing and stuff. We are more reserved. I personally believe that people will take our natural nature of being reserved as being cocky or being arrogant and wanting we always want to exclude ourselves, but they don't know that in social environments, we typically don't gravitate towards people, even unless we're comfortable or if we have people there in attendance that we know.
Yeah, that's facts.
You get me?
And I think that's what throws them off too. Or that's what throws off like people that are from this kind of society is that when they see us with our friends and the way how we just become completely different persons.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like, so why aren't they like that with us? Or they must not like us when it's not that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like, as Warren mentioned, it's just experiences. You know, our experiences are tailored for us to just be that way. And not saying that we can't change, but I think one person to try, the other person to try, with both parties trying, then you come to a closer point where you meet in the middle, you know?
I also believe that if you want to know someone, you make an attempt to know someone. Because I can say I made a national team, I think in 2016, where someone came up to me, and because she didn't have a prior conversation with me, she said to me that it was going around that I'm a very cocky person. But then when she started to have a conversation with me, we started to converse, and she realized that she said, how is it that I'm hearing that you're cocky? And I'm like, I really don't know. I don't know if it's because I tend to isolate myself or stay by myself, why people believe I'm cocky, but that's definitely not the case. And you won't know unless, and an attempt has to be made on my part as well, not only whoever on the outside part it is, but if you want to know someone, you'll make an attempt to know someone instead of just judging by their actions, which, you know, can be influenced by many things.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you're doing well and you're quiet, that's not the expectation, you know? And that's why it's not even just an American thing when you really think about it too, because even in Jamaica, it's like there's an expectation if you're the top man or you're the man that you're going to be out there and outspoken and people are going to know who you are. So when you have somebody who is at that level and is quiet and down to earth, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. You know, so they're like, oh,
so it's a contradiction in their sense.
Hype.
Yeah, in their...
No, if you weren't good at all and you're quiet, then you just be, oh, he's quiet. That's it. No, I don't mind him. He's quiet. They would actually start make excuse for you.
I agree.
Don't worry about him. He's quiet, man. If you get to know him, cool. But if the other way, you're the villain for sure.
Mental.
So piggybacking off relationships for a second. We're here at Liberty.
100.
A Christian school.
Christian.
What do these words mean to you? Ring by Spring.
What it means to me or what it means to the university?
What does it mean to you personally?
It means...
Because I know for sure we had a conversation the other day where you were like, you know, Ring by Spring coming up. Man, you know? Really lucky. So that's why I'm asking. Like,
how many Warrens do you know?
One Warren I know.
Hey,
so for those who don't know, Ring by Spring is just I don't know if it's a Liberty terminology, but from what I understand, Ring by Spring is what it really means is, oh, I'm going to propose to a girl. A girl going to get the ring by spring. So in the fall, you know, when a dating or courting or whatever, and by springtime come around, you propose. And usually this is within the space of 4 or 5 months. We're not talking a year before.
Mental.
Or the summer. And then from the summer, we're talking, you meet somebody at convocation, you know, and you're like, oh man, I like this girl. I'm going to marry her next week. I mean, well, a couple months from now. Like that kind of thing. That's what ring by spring means. So that's why I'm asking you, based on a conversation we had prior to this, what does ring by spring mean to you? Or if you don't want to mention what ring by spring means to you, just talk about ring by spring in general.
Kyle Mitchell, I am almost certain we had no conversation about ring by spring, but I can speak about ring by spring. As you rightfully said, it is the process in which a male courts a female and tries to marry her in the spring season, which is something that's done very frequently on Liberty's compound.
So what are your thoughts on marriage? Is that something that you never see yourself doing?
Being married? 150,000%, bro.
What age are you thinking about getting married?
I don't know if I can't pick an age.
If you could pick an age, what age would you pick?
I don't know, bro. What kind of questions are you asking?
No, I'm just asking because I know you said 150,000%.
Yeah, no. All right, let me. Do I want to get married 100%? I was raised in a household where my mom and my dad have been married for 25 plus years now. I don't want to get it wrong, you know. Sorry, mommy and daddy. About 25 years thereabouts. You get me? Probably over 25 years, bro. I've seen it all. Auntie Mitzi, Uncle Philip as well. Uncle T got Auntie June, bro. I am surrounded by people who are in long-standing marriages, and I've seen them made it work. So it's like, why wouldn't I want something like that? And I am also trying to emulate my father in that sense, where I've seen what he has done with his family, the structure and everything. Why wouldn't I want to replicate that same thing?
So not marriage then.
What do you, bro?
No, I'm just, the reason why I'm asking is because there's a stigma going around.
What stigma is that?
That, you know, men shouldn't get married.
Really?
And especially young men shouldn't get married.
Is it?
You wait till you're in your 40s, when you live your life.
Live your life.
And then you choose to settle down. So that's why I'm asking.
My point of view is that anything that the world gravitates to, you should do the opposite. Because we are called not to be followers of the world. You get me? But to be out of the world. You get me? So if that's the stigma that's going around, I'm very happy with being who I am right now. Because I tend not to follow the status quo, generally speaking. I'm a very controversial person, and I tend to think outside of the box a lot. So being married, that's definitely on the bucket list. When, I can't say. However, the idea of marriage alone is one in which I would 100% partake in.
So what are the expectations that you have for marriage in your life? Like, what do you expect to gain from marriage, from a relationship standpoint? And I'm not saying it to single out you or to basically let everybody know what's your likes and dislikes. I'm just saying, like, from a male's perspective, and I can attest to certain stuff because I'm married.
Yeah.
But from a male's perspective, what are the deterrents that people are thinking about that you think aren't really deterrents, or actually things that will help most men become even greater men?
That's a very interesting question. But I believe that commitment is a very big issue as it relates to contemporary men. Because I feel like in today's society, men believe that the more women they have, the better. When the more women you have, the more issues it can be seen. Because to share your energy among so many people is very difficult and very draining. As in contrast, where you only have one person that's getting everything, I sincerely believe that it's better that way. But I mean, everyone is different. Everyone has their preferences. So if that's what you like or indulge in, so be it.
I agree. And I think what I think is a big part of the reason why this is an issue is because we as men are the space is just afraid to tell the truth. The truth is men naturally are attracted to women. Women are naturally attracted to men. So regardless if I have my wife or my wife has her husband or whatever, there's still this innate desire to want more. This is why it's important as a man to just understand why. Why am I doing this? Why am I committing to this woman? Why did I choose to go down this path? Because 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? A lot of that is financial reasons, but obviously a lot of it is also just this misconception of what you thought this was going to be. And I think when you're realistic and honest with what you want and what you desire, that's when I think you get the best benefit out of it.
Fair enough.
So in my opinion, commitment is very difficult. But if you look at, you know, some of the billionaires or the super wealthy people, they focus on one thing. They master that one thing or master that one craft, and then they go on to another thing. We think that we have to multitask and do this. but the more things you take on, the less efficient you become.
I agree.
And if you can't put all your energy in one thing, then you're not maximizing your efforts. You're not maximizing the potential of the one thing you're putting your energy into.
Fair point.
So
that's a very good
that's
point.
That's one of the pros, in my opinion, of getting married, is that it forces you to be committed. It forces you to be committed to yourself, and as a man, it forces you to be committed to your word. Without trying to overcompensate for all of the different societal norms where you have to do this, you have to go on those days. Just your word being, I love you, I'm going to cherish you, and I'm not going to forsake you and make you feel like you're not loved either. You know what I'm saying? Once you can do those things, in my opinion, your marriage is going to flourish.
I can't. I mean, you're married. I'm not. I can't really speak too much on that. But I also believe point number 2 is just men not feeling that they're ready from a financial standpoint to be in a marriage, because at that point in time, it's 2 people in the picture, and I'm not even talking about if you have kids and stuff like that, where that's additional stuff. So it's like, it can be a very huge turnoff because it takes cash to care, and women need cash. And I feel like if you're not someone that's making money to a certain level, it can prove very difficult in a relationship. Because, as you said, 50% of marriages end in divorce. I believe a lot of it is from financial reasoning.
Yeah, majority.
So it's like getting yourself into a place where you believe you can provide for yourself and your spouse and potential children in a very ample fashion. I believe that if that was the case, a lot more men would be married. And third point, I just believe that men are scared to marry because women nowadays are different, bro. Women nowadays are different. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like women nowadays are different.
How are they different?
So, all right, so I see someone like my mom's, bro, and how she carries herself, how she speaks to my father, how she brings his food on a tray, and you get what I'm saying? Like, it's almost she's a traditional woman.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Not to say she's not independent, which I don't like the term independent woman, but not to say she's not self-sufficient, but she maintains the order where man submits to God, woman submits to man. You get what? It's really not difficult, you know.
It's biblical.
It is biblical, and I really don't believe it's difficult, but I believe that the modern day woman wants to believe that, oh no, it's not supposed to be this way, and you get what I'm saying? Like,
but at the same time, they want it to be that way, so it's kind of...
It's contradicting, bro, but I mean, it's a very touchy point, and I don't feel that this is the space for that, but I sincerely believe that men think that women nowadays are less like their mothers, and I believe that men are very attracted to women who remind them of their mothers.
Funny enough, you know, and I just found this out. Men are usually attracted to women that are like their mothers, and this is from a home, like a traditional home where you have a strong parent in the house, like a good father, a good mother. Men are usually attracted to women that are like their mothers, and women are usually attracted to people that remind them of their father, in terms of how they saw their father serve their mother.
Yeah.
Willingness to sacrifice, willingness to serve, willingness to protect. When a daughter sees that in her father.
On the point, my apologies for interjecting. On the point of women are different, I must say men are different too. I don't want to be biased. The contemporary man is much different as well.
That's true.
I must say that, because as well, seeing my dad, as you just say, the service your father gives to your mom, bro. Again, that's one of the reasons why I want to be married, bro. Because it's like, I've seen that union flourish 25 plus years, bro. I've seen it all right in front of my eyes. Why wouldn't I want something like that? It's very beautiful. From I was young, my mom said marriage is a beautiful thing.
So from your perspective, what do you think is preventing you from getting that? Is it just that what you mentioned about the women nowadays not being at that level? What do you think is preventing you? Or what you think is preventing you from, I don't want to say candidate, but finding a prospect where you say, yeah, this person.
I mean, their life currently has a big question mark to it. And I mentioned that earlier. I'm being so serious right now. My life currently has a big question mark to it after track and field, and so it's like I have to figure that out first before I can say, you get what I'm saying? Because that's a lifelong commitment. I believe if you're married, bro, it's till death do us part. Like those words are supposed to be taken literally, bro.
Yeah.
And I feel like people don't value their words anymore. And I'm a man of my word. So, you get me? I don't want to bring anyone along a joyride and give them unrealistic expectations. That's not me. That's manipulation. And I'm not about that.
Yeah, and I think as a man, you don't have to have everything put together and ready, but you have to have at least a plan.
100%.
And as you mentioned, you're still figuring it out.
Exactly.
So that wouldn't be fair to
It wouldn't be fair to anyone,
Yeah.
So you just have to stay in your corner and be alone, figure things out at times. And
speaking of relationships, you will be in a star in your own right. Heading to your second NCAA nationals for indoors and with an outdoor pending. Conference USA champion, among many other things. Do you feel like with all those things, you get a lot of attention on campus, specifically, from females?
Honestly speaking, I don't know. Personally, I don't believe I garner a lot of attention because track and field is not a sport in which a lot of Americans gravitate to, and that's fine by me. I'm not one for attention nonetheless. I like to work in silence and just do my thing. So if I amass a lot of attention from a female audience, I would say no. But that's completely fine by me. I'm not working because I want attention from anyone either, want the recognition or their, I'm just working to improve myself and potentially improve the Liberty Track and Field program. So.
And the reason why I ask is because I know there may be a lot of elite NCAA athletes that are watching this and are in a similar position as you, and they're wanting to, find that special person, find somebody they can build something with, and potentially get married. And sieving through the different persons that may be interested, knowing how to navigate that and select somebody who you think is the right person for you. That's why I ask, because I just want to see the thought process behind finding the right person, talking to the right person, even sharing the energy with the right person.
Definitely. I mean, you have to be selective in whoever is in your life, not only from a relationship standpoint, but you have to be selective because sometimes you have wolves in cheap clothing. So you definitely have to know people and know their true intentions, which I believe that a lot of people get misled nowadays because at the start of something, someone is so fine and dandy and romantic and everything is good, keeping it 100 and all that stuff, but then a couple months down the line, is it the same? Is the energy the same or is it different? So a lot of people tend to be misled simply because they don't know if someone in their life is authentic, yes or no. You get me?
And that's so powerful because one would probably say patience will help, but as I can attest, it doesn't matter how patient you are. Some persons are willing to wait as long as they can just so that they can take off their mask.
Oh, definitely.
So you can be with somebody for 2 years, and the minute you decide to commit, that's when they start to show their true colors.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't know if it's just a game or it's just their nature, but it is like that. So it is difficult to find the right person, which is why finding the right person is such a a great feat in itself. Like when you find somebody, and this is for men and women, when you find somebody who you believe 100% that this person is special, this person is unique, this person is somebody that I can not just take with me on my journey, but go alongside with me on my journey.
I like that one.
Because I think there's this notion that men move forward in life and women follow. No, a lot of times it's because of women why men even get to the point where they are in life.
Every successful man has a strong woman as his backbone.
Definitely. And even if it's not from a wife standpoint, a lot of these successful men, when you hear their stories, they might not be in a place where they had a wife, but if you listen, it's an aunt, it's a
Fair
mother,
enough. I
it's
agree.
a grandmother.
I agree.
You always, because that's how we were created. We were created to work alongside each other. No one is greater than the other. The man isn't greater than the woman, and the woman isn't greater than the man. We're equal. Obviously, we have different roles to play. But just like the Bible mentioned, the hand is not greater than the head. The foot is not greater than the hand. All work in accordance to make the body in itself work and operate.
Yeah.
I think once we have that perspective on relationships, life in general, will grow exponentially beyond our measure. So Warren, this is your last season.
Season finale, yeah.
Wow, the time kind of feel like it flies. It almost feel like it's just yesterday it came on. Got 2-3 more years left now. It's your last year.
Last one.
What does this last year mean to you?
It means a lot to me, man. It's a very sentimental thing because it's very likely that I'll be walking away from the sport. So I'm just enjoying every moment of it and basking the moment as much as I can, because I know that a lot of people struggle with their identity after the sport has finished, and as such, I'm just cherishing every moment that I have doing the sport. So,
So you mentioned that you're walking away from the sport.
highly likely.
If you had a dream year, if you had a year that blew your expectations to the window, would you consider going pro, or what would it take for you to consider going pro?
It would take potential earning for me to consider going pro, because shot put is not like sprinting where there's loads of money, or if you have a contract you get tons of money. In throwing, that's definitely not the case because the event isn't as popular. It's not a event which garners a lot of attention, and as such, the shoe companies don't give out that much money unless you're a world beater. And even if that's the case, your base salary wouldn't be that of like a Sidney McLaughlin or a Sherika Jackson or someone of that caliber. Get what I'm saying? So it's just, you have to look at it from all angles, and also, you have your stuff like moving from the NCAA system, which would take care of travel, accommodation, food. You have free trainers and stuff like that. It's like stipend, stuff like that. It's a lot you'd have to take into consideration, and seeing that all those stuff would be stripped away from me and I'd have to be in charge of all of that, I don't think it's worth the hassle. I think it's better to just go into the working world and see what it is. I mean, I'm not eager to close the chapter, but it must come to an end at some point in time, and end this drawing nigh. And
So for persons that are on the fence are trying to decide whether or not they should or should not go pro, what kind of advice would you give to them right now?
I'd say weigh up all the options, man. Weigh up all the options, but importantly, listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, because if it is a passion of yours and you deeply love it and everything makes sense, just assess your options, pros and cons of each situation, and see which one you firmly believe that can bring you the most joy. Because life is very short, and why would you live a life in which you have regret? Personally, I don't think that makes any sense. So if going pro is going to give you the most joy in life, You have to do what it may, but not at the expense of not being able to provide. You get me? But passion, once you're passionate about something, you'll do it. So if you're even at a crossroad at considering it, it shows how much you value the sport, and you might as well give it a year or two of your life. And even if you don't ultimately make it to be an Olympian or someone who goes to the World Championship, I mean, there are lessons there that you can potentially learn and apply to different parts of your life.
I agree. I feel like a lot of persons just don't understand the sacrifices you have to make in order for your dreams to come true.
Definitely.
If you're passionate about something, I think I can confidently say 80% of the time it's going to require a lot from you.
Definitely.
And
100%.
the whole idea of status over success is, I think, one of the reasons why many persons are so stagnant.
Mhm.
Because, for example, if you can actually go pro and you can actually find a way to make it work, but it would require you working a job that, you know, isn't necessarily something that you would want to be doing, and then you decide, oh, I'm not going to go pro because I don't want to work that job. You weren't serious about
Yeah,
it in the
you
first
couldn't
place.
have been.
You know, I'm not going to share somebody's story because they didn't give me the permission to share it. But I know persons right now, as we speak, that are doing exceptionally well as professionals. And in order to get to that level, they were doing DoorDash. DoorDash, Uber Eats, all them things there. And think about that. That story in itself, it doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound like something that anybody would want to do or want to emulate. But that's what it took. And now they're at a level where maybe DoorDash or Uber is going to want to sponsor them soon. So that's the way how life is all work works, you know? And once you have the mindset and the mentality that this is not an option for me, this is what I have to do in
Yeah.
order to make it work, usually it works.
Definitely.
You know, and I think how you approach anything or how you do anything
So you do everything.
is how you do everything. So if you're lackluster in your approach or your efforts to becoming a pro, then there's no way you're going to profit from your passion. Because if you're clocking in early, and I mean from a training standpoint, if you're coming in early, you're doing your training, you're doing your other exercises needed, you're doing your lifting, and you're doing that day in, day out, there's no way those traits and those qualities and characteristics aren't going to translate into other areas of your life. Financially, physically, mentally, even spiritually. The discipline it requires in order to be great at anything, to me, is something that transcends any single thing. Once you're disciplined at one thing, I think that becomes applicable in most, if not every other thing.
It's a carryover effect for sure. Additionally, coming from Jamaica where the support isn't that vast as other federations, it's very likely that someone who's in the NCAA system who wants to move into becoming a professional would have to get a job at a Walmart or an Amazon or something just to try to make ends meet, because track is not a premier sport like the NBA or NFL or even football in Europe that makes tons of money. So it's a sacrifice that is very rough, but at the end of the day, if you love it enough, you'll get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that the federations, federation in Jamaica can definitely play a better role or a better part in assisting athletes. I don't know specifically what they're doing or what they're not doing, so I won't speak too much on it. But I know from an athlete standpoint, hearing other athletes talk about it, hearing athletes talk about, the struggles that they have to face, the struggles that they come day in, day out with trying to navigate life without any kind of support financially. And being that athletics in Jamaica is one of our premier events, if not the most premier sport in Jamaica.
Mhm.
The only other thing that I think could compete is football, and even then, we don't have the kind of success
Yeah, definitely.
that we have in track and field, that we have in football. So that's something that I think that the federations would definitely be needing to pump some funds and resources into, because if your sport or the sport that is your poster boy sports are the sports that you're known for, and most of the athletes that are at that level that could become elite and get medals or break records are exiting the sport because they don't see a future in it. I think that's a great point or a moment in time where those persons at that level need to come together and say, we need to put something in place.
Definitely.
We need to put something in place so we can support these athletes. Maybe we have to take a pay cut, or maybe we have to cut funding from other stuff that we don't necessarily need immediately and invest some of that time, effort, energy, and money into promising athletes and be very transparent about your efforts. Because I think a lot of the times, people, when you're not transparent and straightforward and honest, you leave it up to for persons to assume. So if I get funding and I say I'm going to help athletes with funding, I think most athletes are going to think that they're going to get funding.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, we're going to fund these athletes at this level, then you create a standard right there. Like, all right, in order for me to get funding from a shot put standpoint, in order for me to get funding, I have to throw 20.5. And if I'm throwing 20.4, I'm not going to be in my feelings or be upset about that fact because, there's a standard that once I hit that standard, I can reach out to the federations and say, hey, I'm an up and coming shot put thrower and, I'm seeking some assistance financially. And I've already met the quotas needed in order to get that. I think that kind of system puts a target or a mark in front of the athlete's eyes so they can work towards something rather than you trying to get to a mark that you don't even know if it's going to do anything.
Just working blindly, basically.
Yeah, because you might end up throwing 21 meters and thinking, yes, this is a mark in my mind that I thought that I can get some funding, and then you reach out and you hear nothing from them. So, yeah, I think the federations can help with that issue that we're having with just athletes leaving the sport. A lot of athletes are leaving the sport. Jamaican athletes, some of the athletes that if these guys, some of these girls and guys were in different countries, they would be living a completely different life.
100%.
And that, I think, also plays into a lot of the reason why they want to leave the sport is because they feel unappreciated.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I would understand the case of feeling unappreciated, having gone on multiple national teams and not even to get a how are you doing, or I'm just checking in, whoever from the J3 or JO or whichever sporting body, just checking in to see how you're doing. We know that you're in the States at school. What are you pursuing? Just little stuff that appeals to the human aspect. Not to say I want it, but it's good to know that as someone who has transitioned from the youth and junior level and now at the NCAA level and doing well, or even if you're not doing well, man, you just need people to reach out to you, check up on you. Like, I think that's minor stuff that can be done that could go a very far away, because being in a completely different environment as a Jamaican, a lot of people didn't have the same luxuries as myself of having a family who could carry them to America for them to experience it prior to coming here on a student visa and experiencing it. You get me? Some people, it's their first ever time coming overseas and it's a culture shock for them. And having people in your corner or having someone you can speak to is like, it goes a very long way. So mental health, from a mental health standpoint, I believe that the federation can just, initiate small, minor conversations, nothing too long and drawn out, trying to find out your life story, just something minor. I really don't think it would take that much for them to do. Nothing monetary either.
Mentorship programs too.
Mentorship program might be very beneficial, because a lot of people, a lot of Jamaican athletes in the NCAA, when college is finished, what do they do afterwards? They don't know. And we have a lot of people who are coaches here and have taken on a lot of professions which, they've been through that process. So why not start something that they can give back to the athletes within the current NCAA system? I feel like thinking like that can help to alleviate problems for people like myself and other Jamaicans who are going to be finished very soon.
I agree. I feel like not even just the finances, because resources supersede finances.
Definitely.
A lot of persons, the resource is their mind or their experience. So
fair enough.
Creating a system, and this might be something that we have to end up doing, because This is something that we need.
Definitely.
A system in place where former athletes or even current athletes or coaches can communicate with other athletes or incoming athletes, not even just from an NCAA standpoint, but just athletes in general for Jamaica. Like whether in Jamaica, in the United States, wherever you are in the world, just providing that support where if you have a question you need to be that need to be asked and you're unsure about something, if you're on the verge of do I go pro or do I go to work, having somebody who is a pro or somebody who decided to go work or having those two persons talk to you so you can know which one you want to decide to do. Because guess what? You might say, I'm going to go pro. But if you had a conversation with somebody that went pro, they could tell you that, honestly speaking, just listening to you and hearing what you're saying, I think it's best, in my opinion, for you to not go pro. Or if somebody who decided not to go pro, if they had talked to somebody, then they could have said, the day I decided not to go pro is a day that up to this day I regret.
Fair enough.
Because that's a real thing, When you decide not to do something that you're passionate about, and then you see others doing it, and worse, if it's somebody who wasn't at your level or you were better than them. For example, if you're running 10-0 and you have a friend that was running 10-2, and you decided not to go pro.
Yeah, that's mad.
And then that person end up started run 9-8 and win Olympics and all that.
Yeah, you would be living life in regret.
You're gonna look at that and say, man, that could have been me.
Yeah.
If me did know. Well, that was definitely great to hear your story, Warren. Honestly, I feel like it doesn't matter how many times I hear it, it's always encouraging and inspiring to see where you came from, where you are.
Appreciate it, man.
And the path that you're currently on. With that being said, is there anything else that you want to cover that we didn't do in the questions?
I want to highlight the fact that at the University of the West Indies, I was involved in student leadership. I was the deputy games committee chairperson for Rex Centerford Hall. Big up Rex. Big up you too. And I had to come out of my introverted shell. It was a position in which I relished. I was injured at the time, and I needed something to fill that gap because sports wasn't there. And as such, I found myself in it. One of my friends suggested, just try and see. And I actually got the position, and I loved it, man. It gave me a different perspective of sports and understanding sports, because it's not only track and field, it's football, cricket, netball, badminton, volleyball, tennis, everything. So it was like being the athletic director of a dorm or a hall in the case of UWI. And I had to come out of my introverted shell because I had to go around, knock on people's door. Granted, it's the most populated hall on the university campus. So imagine me walking around as an introvert, knocking on people's door. Hey, what's your name? My name's Warren. I'm the deputy games committee chairperson. Do you play any sports? Like, that's completely not me, but that is something that I had to do. And I loved every bit of it, man, because it helped me to learn how to engage with people socially. You get me? Being in your shell doesn't foster improvement or growth. You have to challenge yourself to grow. You get me? And when you're uncomfortable, it's very likely that you will grow in that circumstance. So as a result, the position helped me to become a very different person. And I believe I can use those skills that I learned from that position and use it along life in general. You get me? But I cherish that role, man. And if the opportunity came to become an athletic director for a school, high school, or a college eventually, I would relish it. I'm not going to lie. I love it, man. I love it. I remember this one time I had to use two vacated netball poles, and I used a volleyball net to wrap around it just so my badminton players could have practice. Because it's like being an athlete, how can you expect to perform if you don't train? You get me? And also being an athlete, knowing people, I had to recruit people who were off campus to participate for the hall. Our hall is not known for winning, but because of the mentality I have, I despise losing. I tried my best to make the hall competitive in every way, shape, and form. And I feel like you could see that I put blood, sweat, and tears into it because people were actually suggesting that I run for the post of games committee chairperson for the university because they saw the improvements that this feeble hall made whilst I was whilst I was there leading the program. And unfortunately I couldn't get to because that was the summer that I came to Liberty. I don't regret it, but I love my job, and if I could serve in that capacity somewhere else, I would.
Wow, that's so powerful to hear, and I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
It's amazing when we hear stories that just speak volume of a person's character. Because this is something that without you even mentioning that story to me, I would have known that that would be you.
Yeah.
Because that's your approach to everything.
Definitely.
That's your approach to chewing. That's your approach to playing video games. Whatever we do, it's always going above and beyond.
For real.
You know, when we're at work and we have something to do, thinking outside the box, trying to make something work, being the one that work too hard, that's definitely who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
I try, man. I try moms and dads, you know? Mom and dad, you know, I thank you a lot for instilling these values in me. They're still here. You know? I appreciate you guys. I love you guys.
So as we come to a close, Warren, is there, you know, anybody who played a major role with your development in Jamaica and here in the United States? I know you touched a little bit on, I don't know if you want to go any more in detail about that, your injuries or stuff like that, but anybody you want to big up, talk about, or anything?
The list is too long, man. If you know yourself, you know yourself. You get me? Like, I don't talk to that many people. So once you're in that selective few, you know yourself. I don't like the name call, but you know, my family, my closest friends, I mean, they know themselves. Get me? But as it relates to the injuries aspect, I'll speak on, I had to go to New York once because I had a 3-level herniated disc in my cervical spine. And the doctor told me that it's very likely that I won't be able to throw again. You get me? So it's like coming to the realization that, yo, I could potentially not do this again. It's made me appreciate the sport even more. And I shouldn't even be here at this point, man. So I'm just grateful. I'm taking every day a step at a time, and you know, I'm just cherishing every moment, as I said earlier. I don't want any day to be wasted, man. I'm just enjoying the experience while I'm here and basking in the moment again.
Well, bro, this was a pleasure, as I mentioned earlier. Thank you for stopping by, sharing your story. I know a lot of persons are going to be encouraged just to hear,
hopefully,
where you came from. Hopefully. You know, and for those of you guys that are watching that, you know, are just curious about what it takes to get to this level, and not just this level from an athletic standpoint, just, you know, as a person in general, you know, what are some of the things that we have to go through in life in order to unlock our true potential. You know, as you probably hear this a million times, diamonds are made under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything worth having is going to take effort,
100,
energy, and time.
100%.
And as Warren's story perfectly reflects, is that if you are steadfast and patient and hardworking and diligent, these are things that are going to come your way regardless. So just continue to focus on the goals you have in your mind and continue to be diligent. And again, Warren, thank you for coming.
Definitely. Anytime, man.